of Vietnam, President Xi Jinping will attend the 25th APEC Economic Leaders Meeting from November the 10th to the 11th in Da Nang, Vietnam. This meeting will be the first time for Chinese leaders attend the international and multilateral meeting after the successful conclusion of the 19th Party Congress. It is of great significance and receives high attention from the international community. During the meeting, President Xi will attend the APEC CEO Summit and deliver a keynote address.
出席这次会议啊，这次会议主要是有2个阶段的会议啊，习主席将根据会议的安排出席这2个阶段会议，还有工作午餐。
Retreat and working lunch in line with the arrangement of the meeting.
与东盟
attend the
领导人举行的对话会。
Dialogue with ASEAN leaders.
APEC 那个工商咨询理事会代表的对话会。当然，在这个会议期间
，APEC Business Advisory Council. On the margins of the meeting, President Xi will also have bilateral meetings or brief conversations with leaders of other relevant economies.
那么这次会议的主题呢，是打
The
造
theme
全新
of
的
this
动力，
conference
开
is
创
creating
共享
new
未来。
dynamism, fostering
各
a
经济
shared
体领导
future.
人及代表
Leaders
将
and
围绕着
representatives
区
of
域
the
经济一体化、
economies will
包容
have
发展、
in-depth exchange of
创
views
新增长、
on regional economic
互联互通、
integration, inclusive
农业
development,
和粮食安全
innovative
这
growth,
些议题
connectivity,
深入地交
agriculture,
换意见，
food
进行
security,
深入的讨论。
and other issues.
那么会议达成的共识
The consensus
将反映
reached
在
at
会
the
后
meeting
领
will
导人宣
be
言之中。
reflected in the leaders'
当前
declaration
这个世界
issued
经
after
济
the
形势
meeting.
啊，总体
At the
向好。
moment, the world
全球
economy
主要经
is
济体
improving on the whole.
10年来
Major
首次出
economies
现
in
了
the
同步
world
增长，
all
这确实是一
registered
个
growth for the
可
first
喜的
time
现象。
in 10
但
years,
是呢，
which
不
is
稳定、不确定的
encouraging.
因素仍然存
That
在。
said, there are still some uncertainties
亚太是
and
全球经济规模
destabilizing
最大、
factors. The
最
Asia
具发
Pacific
展活力的地区。
has the
这个 APEC 成员
largest
经济总量
economies and most
占全球的
dynamic economies.
60%，贸易额占
economic
全球的
aggregate of
近1半。
APEC economies accounts for
亚太
60% of the
地区
world's
保
total,
持平稳
and trade
平稳
volume
较
accounts
快的
for
增
nearly
长，
half
对
of
世
the
界
global
经济走
total.
上
Steady
持
and
续的
rapid growth
这个
of
复
the
苏
Asia Pacific is
具有积极的意义，是非常
of
重要
great
的。
significance for the world
APEC 是
economy
亚太地区
to achieve
级别最
recovery.
高、领域
APEC
最广、
is the
影响力最
highest
大的
level and
经
most
济合作平台，
extensive and
也是
influential
全球经济
cooperation
发展的
platform.
引领
It
者、
is also
开
a
拓者。
torchbearer and
当前
pioneer
经济
of
这个形势下，
global
国际社会
economic
普遍希望
development. Under the
APEC
current
能够推动
circumstances, it
区域
is the
经济
shared
一体化，
aspiration of the
促
international
进区域
community
经济合
that
作，
APEC
在这些
will
方面
play
呢，发挥重要
important
的作
role
用。
in deepening regional
对
economic
这次会议，
integration
国际社
and
会
promoting regional
给
economic
予了这个高
cooperation.
的期待。
And the international community has
习
high
主席出席现场的
expectations
会议，
for
体
this
现了中
meeting.
方对
President
加强亚
Xi's
太经济合作的
attendance
高度的重视。
reflects China's
作为
high attention
APEC 大家庭
on
的重要
APEC, on
成员，
Asia-Pacific
我们
economic
坚定地
cooperation.
支持
As
越
an
南方
important
面
member of the
能够
APEC
主办一
family,
次成功的
China
APEC
firmly
会议。
supports
我
Vietnam
们这
in
个期待
holding
这次
a
会议啊，能够
successful
在3个方面
leaders
取
meeting.
得积极的成果。
We look forward
第一，就是
to
能够
positive
共同地
outcomes
维
in the
护
following
亚太
aspects.
开放
First,
发展的大方向，
working together to ensure
希望
open
各方能
development
够
in the
秉持
Asia-Pacific. We
实
hope
现自由
that
开放
parties
贸易
will
投资这一重要的宗旨，
uphold free
携手
and
推进
open
贸易
trade
和
and
投资自
investment
由化、
and work together
便利化
to advance trade
逐步
and
地
investment
稳步的
facilitation
推进
and
亚太
liberalization,
自贸区的
steadily
建
advance
设，
the building
支持
of
多边贸易体制，
FTAP support multilateral trading regime and send a positive message to the outside and inject positive energy to an open world economy. Second, working together to unleash new potential and impetus for development in the Asia-Pacific. We hope the meeting in Da Nang will put forward new cooperation plans on the internet and digital economy, e-commerce, services, and SMEs, advance the implementation of the connectivity blueprint, and promote the development of the real economy. Third, working together to outline new vision for future cooperation. The BOGA goals will expire by 2020. We hope that we will take into account both the immediate and long-term interests and have in-depth discussion on a vision for the future cooperation and build consensus. China's development is closely related to APEC cooperation process. China has all along been a firm supporter, participant, and contributor to Asia-Pacific economic cooperation. China will continue to work with others for greater development in Asia-Pacific economic cooperation and for prosperity in this region. Thank you. Thank you. I now give the floor to Minister Wang Shouwen to brief you on the economic and trade aspect of the visit.
Journalists, good morning. As mentioned by Vice Minister Li Baodong, this year, under the theme of creating new dynamism, fostering a shared future, APEC has been working to put forward progress in the following 4 areas, namely promoting inclusive development, deepening regional economic integration, strengthening SMEs innovation, and enhancing food security. Of the 4 aspects, regional economic integration is a long-standing priority of APEC. This year, in line with the Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era, we've been pushing forward cooperation for economic integration in the Asia-Pacific region, deepening trade and investment liberalization and facilitation, and made preparation for achieving outcomes on the trade and economic aspects. The meeting is expected to deliver the following outcomes in trade. First is about smooth trade. To be specific, first, to approve APEC cross-border e-commerce facilitation framework. As you know, cross-border e-commerce is a new type of international trade that is booming and a new bright spot of economic growth. China actively supports APEC in formulating cross-border e-commerce facilitation framework of APEC. This framework will focus on improving policy environment for cross-border e-commerce, further facilitate cross-border paperless trade, strengthening the protection of privacy, and enhancing SMEs' engagement in e-commerce. This framework will help Chinese companies access Asia-Pacific markets and facilitate China's import of foreign goods through cross-border e-commerce. Second is about supply chain connectivity. We have formulated the APEC monitoring framework of the supply chain framework action. Smooth and convenient supply chain is an important part of smooth trade. In light of business community's demand, we have identified 5 weak links, including border management, infrastructure, logistics services, regulatory cooperation, and e-commerce facilitation, and proposed steps for improvement. For instance, in terms of border management, we have proposed suggestions for e-customs, mutual recognition of AEO, cross-border e-payment cooperation, and global data standard application. Third, APEC best practices for promoting supporting industry. This document is about removing impediments for the development of main industries. We have come up with a series of policy recommendations in such areas as policy coordination, development of industrial clusters, supply chain coordination, and the development of industrial parks. China, with its rich experience in bond policy, supporting measures for industrial chain, and the development of industrial parks, has provided important support for the formulation of this document. Fourth, on cooperation in the services sector, trade in services is taking a bigger share in global trade, and trade in services is more dependent on communication of policy among various parties. This year, APEC has formulated non-binding principles for domestic regulations, encouraging member economies to build open, transparent, and fully competitive services market. At the same time, the member economies will launch formulation of APEC Index on measuring services regulatory environment. Well, these APEC trade outcomes echo China's trade initiatives under the Belt and Road Initiative. China has made active efforts and made important contribution to the delivery of these outcomes. And second, the outcomes of the APEC Beijing meeting will be further implemented. As you know, the APEC Economic Leaders meeting was held in Beijing a couple of years ago, and the outcomes of that meeting will be further implemented this time. To be specific, new progress is made in reaching FTAP. We formulated the Beijing roadmap, and in 2016, we completed the collective strategic study on FTAP and issued Lima Declaration. And this year, the member economies have been working actively to implement Lima Declaration and held a number of workshops, building stronger momentum towards FTAP. Second, global value chain cooperation has achieved initial success. About the development of APEC trade in value-added database led by China and the United States, the supply use tables of member economies was basically completed, laying a solid foundation for the completion of the database in 2018. At the same time, China has led the development of the Global Value Chain Partnership Platform, which is already open and will help developing economies and SMEs to better take part in global value chain. Third, we have deepened and will continue to deepen e-port and green supply chain cooperation. The Asia-Pacific Model E-port Network, or APMEN, and APEC Green Supply Chain Cooperation Network, initiated by China at the Beijing meeting, made good progress, especially on APMEN. Vietnam held a high-level dialogue meeting. The second workshop on capacity building was held in Shanghai, and the city of Xiamen of China, and Lurquin Port and Coronel of Chile have become new members of the network. And third, sending a positive message on supporting multilateral trading system. APEC economies take a considerable amount of global trade, and APEC members have played an exemplary role in supporting multilateral trading system and promoting global trade, liberalization, and facilitation, including the implementation of ITA expansion and the implementation of the outcomes of trade facilitation agreement. As you know, in about 1 month's time, WTO will hold its 11th ministerial conference in Argentina. The international community has high expectations on this ministerial conference. During the APEC Trade Ministers meeting in May, the parties pledged their support for the success of the WTO Ministerial Conference. We hope the upcoming WTO meeting will be successful, and we hope the upcoming APEC Economic Leaders meeting will send a positive message for the success of the WTO meeting and help secure a bigger role for WTO in global economic governance. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Minister Wang. Now, Assistant Foreign Minister Chen will brief you on President Xi's visit to Vietnam and Laos PDR. Friends from the press, good morning. At the invitation of General Secretary of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of Vietnam, Nguyen Phu Trong, President Truat Dai Quang, General Secretary of the Lao People's Revolutionary Party, and President Burhan Volachit of the Lao PDR, General Secretary and President Xi Jinping will pay state visits to Vietnam and the Lao PDR from the 12th to the 14th November. This will be the first visit overseas by the top leader of the CPC in China after the successful conclusion of the 19th National Congress of the Communist Party of China. It will be the opening of the neighborhood diplomacy with Chinese characteristics for a new era. This visit will open up new prospects for the neighborhood diplomacy with Chinese characteristics for a new era, present a new outlook of China practicing the principles of sincerity, amity, inclusiveness, and mutual benefit, and fostering friendship and partnership with its neighbors, and secure new achievements in developing friendship and good neighborliness with Vietnam, Lao PDR, and other neighbors, and fostering a closer community of shared future among the neighbors. China and Vietnam and Lao PDR are friendly neighbors and important partners. All three countries are socialist countries under the leadership of Communist Party. China has comprehensive strategic cooperative partnership with both Vietnam and Lao PDR. General Secretary and President Xi has made Vietnam and Lao PDR the destination for his first overseas visit after the 19th National Congress. This fully shows how much importance China attaches to its good neighborliness friendship with Vietnam and Lao PDR and in advancing comprehensive strategic cooperation with them. Likewise, both the parties and government of Vietnam and the Lao PDR also attach great importance to and are very much looking forward to the visit by the General Secretary and President Xi. And the leaders of the two parties and two countries will accompany President Xi in attending a number of events. Now, both sides are making full and careful preparations for this visit, and we are confident that this visit will bring new opportunities, inject new vitalities, and open new prospects for the development of bilateral relations in the new era and for mutually beneficial and win-win cooperation between China and Southeast Asian countries as a whole. On the visit to Vietnam, over the past 67 years since the establishment of diplomatic relations, the bilateral ties have been moving forward on the whole. Since the beginning of this year, General Secretary President Xi has invited General Secretary Nguyen and President Zhuan to visit China, which facilitated the growth of the comprehensive strategic cooperative partnership between the two countries. With this visit by the General Secretary and President Xi, the top leaders of the two parties and two countries will again exchange visits within 1 year. It is of great special significance. During the visit, General Secretary and President Xi will hold talks respectively with General Secretary Nguyen and the President Zhuan. He will also meet with Prime Minister Nguyen Xuan Bu and the Chairwoman of the National Assembly Nguyen Thi King Dan. By then, the leaders of the two parties and two countries will have in-depth exchange of views on deepening the strategic communication between the two countries and two parties, strengthening exchange of experience on governing the party and governing the country, facilitating the complementarity between their major development strategies, expanding practical cooperation, expanding people-to-people exchanges, as well as on international and regional issues of shared interest. They will also make a comprehensive plan for the way forward in developing bilateral relations. During the visit, the two sides will reach a number of important agreements on seeking complementarity between the Belt and Road Initiative and the Two Corridors, One Circle Initiative, production capacity cooperation, infrastructure, cross-border economic cooperation zone, and the cultural industry cooperation. Relevant agreements will be signed. On the visit to the Laos PDR, the two countries have established diplomatic relations for 56 years, and the bilateral ties have been strengthening and developing since 2016. General Secretary and President Xi has met General Secretary and President Volaci for 3 times and reached important agreements on bilateral relations. This visit to the Laos PDR by General Secretary and President Xi will be the first visit by the top leader of the CPC and China in 11 years. It is of great significance for the growth of bilateral relations in the new era. During the visit, General Secretary and President Xi will hold talks with General Secretary and President Volaci, and he will meet separately with Prime Minister Thongloun Sisoulith and President of the National Assembly Pani Yathotu. The leaders of the two parties and countries will have in-depth exchange of views on promoting traditional friendship, strengthening political mutual trust, enhancing strategic coordination, and deepening practical cooperation. They will also make a comprehensive plan for the growth of bilateral relations in the new era. The leaders of the two parties and two countries will also jointly attend a groundbreaking ceremony for some livelihood projects built with Chinese assistance. During the visit, the two sides are expected to reach new and important agreements and secure new outcomes in deepening the complementarity between the Belt and Road Initiative and Laos National Development Strategy, infrastructure, science, technology, agriculture, electricity. Relevant agreements will be signed to further substantiate the content of the bilateral comprehensive strategic cooperative partnership. Thank you, Assistant Minister Chen. Now the floor is open. So please identify yourself with your media affiliation before your questions. And please tell us who your question is addressed to. Now the floor is open. From Taiwan, the interaction between President Xi and other member economies attending the APEC will be the focus of media. So there be a formal talk or meeting between President Xi and Song Chuyu, the Taiwan attendee of this APEC economic leaders meeting. This is a question addressed to Vice Minister Li.
参加 APEC 的活动，必须符合一中的原则。
Chinese Taipei's attendance at APEC must conform to the One China principle and the APEC's MOU.
希望有关的 活动呢能够
hope
按照这些规
the
定
relevant activities or events will be carried out in line with these principles and stipulations will not affect the normal meeting arrangements.
经合组织关于这个有关台湾问题的谅解备忘录的执行是非
They
常重要的。
must be carried out in line with the stipulations of the MOU of APEC on this matter.
下一个问题，马超。
Thank you. With the CNR, APEC has taken inclusive growth as a priority topic and will advance cooperation in this area. What's China's view on this, and what efforts will be made to promote inclusive growth? This is a topic that receives high attention from the international community. There's high attention and great emphasis on inclusive growth. It has been discussed on different fora. And in the agenda of this year's APEC meeting, it is at a prominent position, which is a reflection of the party's great attention on inclusive growth. Over the past year, various parties have had thorough discussion on that and put forward action plans. It also reflects that regional economies look forward to APEC's role in promoting inclusive growth. A defining feature of APEC is its diversity. We have developed members and developing members. The level of development is divergent. But over the years in this big family, we have worked together to advance regional economic integration. And we hope to see some concrete outcomes in achieving inclusive growth. With the joint efforts, the gap is narrowing, and these are some positive developments. We hope to see even greater progress on inclusive growth at the meeting. We already have good basis for inclusive growth in this region. We hope that parties will continue to focus on development as the theme, work for steady growth of regional economies. While growing a bigger pie, we also need to ensure it is distributed equitably on connectivity, the internet, digital economy, urbanization, agriculture, and food security. We all need to increase input and advance connectivity, raise the level of our cooperation so that different people will all share in the benefits of development. China is ready to work with others for steady progress in this area. Thank you.
Martin.
Hi, thank you. I'm from Reuters.
我是路透社的记者。
Vice Minister Li Baodong, related to the South China Sea. Vietnam is nearing completion on its own land reclamation projects and an extended runway on its base in the Spratly Islands. I'm curious if China thinks that tensions over the South China Sea will limit cooperation between China and Vietnam during APEC. Related to this, some experts who study the South China Sea and the issues there suggest that China may be taking advantage of the United States' focus on North Korea to quietly undertake more construction and reclamation in disputed waters. So I'm curious how you would address that criticism. Thank you.
这个关于南海的问题嘛。
On the South China Sea issue, it is not an item on the agenda of APEC. We have consensus on that. We hope that parties at the meeting will focus on regional economic cooperation and focus on development and inclusive growth. We hope we will build consensus on that and outline the future vision for Asia-Pacific cooperation. Free trade area of the Asia-Pacific and China and the U.S. have a lot of common interests on that. During the Beijing APEC Economic Leaders Meeting, the FTAP roadmap was adopted. In the process of building FTAP, the Beijing meeting has made a historic step. At the Lima meeting in Peru, a declaration on FTAP was adopted, which outlined work going forward. and enhanced the momentum of building FTAP. We hope that China and the US will work in concert for positive outcomes on building FTAP. In other areas, China and US also have common understanding and common interests. We hope to work together for positive outcomes of the meeting.
My question is for Vice Minister Wang Shouwen. Just now you said that we can expect something from this meeting about smooth trade, which is an important topic for APEC. As an important party for smooth trade, what contribution China has made? Thank you. The report to the 19th National Congress of the party says that we should build an open world economy and make new ground in pursuing opening up on all fronts. All these imply smooth trade. And in China's Belt and Road Initiative, we made proposals on 5 aspects, one of which is about trade, which has received more and more positive response from other parties. This is also an important topic for APEC, and China has made active contribution and worked with other parties of APEC to deliver more outcomes. First, through proposing APEC model e-port network and green supply chain network, China has worked to promote the implementation of APEC supply chain framework action plan. So we have proposed this APEC model e-port network and green supply chain network. In the first one, we emphasized the importance to improve border management and improving logistics efficiency. And we want to facilitate more effective and efficient information sharing in terms of shipment and port. We have also proposed green procurement tool, which has enriched the content of APEC cooperation in this area. And second is about e-commerce. China has rich experience in this area. The APEC Policy Support Unit made a field trip to China's e-commerce businesses to get more understanding about China's experience and best practices in this area. And these have been used as a reference in the formulation of the framework concerning e-commerce facilitation. And third, in trade in services, China supports the formulation of APEC Index on measuring services regulatory environment. In this area, it's more about elements of policy. China supports the formulation of this index on measuring services regulatory environment, hoping that this could be reflected in the work of all APEC member economies, so that the policies of various parties could be better understood, and we could get more understanding about restraints and constraints. This way, we will work together with other parties to facilitate work in this area. Thank you. The CCTV, my question is for Vice Minister Wang Shouwen. Vietnam is the chair of APEC. Vice Minister Wang Shouwen. According to your briefing, after the APEC meeting, President Xi will visit Vietnam. How will this visit promote economic cooperation between the two countries? Thank you for your question. China and Vietnam are good neighbors, good friends, good comrades, and good partners. In recent years, the two countries have had good cooperation in economy and trade, including the signing of a 5-year program for economic cooperation, the signing of a border area trade agreement, and the efforts to promote a cross-border economic cooperation zone. Thanks to these efforts, our investment and trade cooperation has been expanding. Over the past 14 years, China has been Vietnam's top trading partner. China-Vietnam trade volume accounts for 20% of Vietnam's external trade. And investment in Vietnam has been growing rapidly over the past years. Last year, the figure grew by 130% over the year before last, reaching $15 billion. General Secretary and President Xi is going to visit Vietnam after the APEC meeting. This visit will play an important role in promoting economic and trade cooperation between the two countries. There will be specific outcomes in a number of areas. For instance, in trade, we will work further to promote steady and sound development of trade. We will increase import from Vietnam. Yesterday, the Ministry of Commerce held a press conference, and it was announced that in November next year, China will hold an international import expo. We welcome Vietnam's participation in the event to promote Vietnam's products to Chinese consumers. The second area is investment. In investment, we will further implement the 5-year program of development. We will identify priorities and major projects which reflect China-Vietnam cooperation within the framework of Belt and Road Initiative and also production capacity cooperation between the two countries, which will help us boost our infrastructure cooperation and the cooperation in manufacturing sector. And third is about trade in services. For years, China has been Vietnam's largest source of international tourists. We hope that through President Xi's visit, we'll be able to further promote personnel exchanges and mutual understanding, exchanges and cooperation between the two sides. I want to emphasize in particular that with this visit, we will further enhance border area economic cooperation. We hope to advance the development of cross-border economic cooperation zone. And also, in terms of regional economic cooperation, China and Vietnam have been very close partners. This year, Vietnam is the APEC chair. China supports Vietnam in hosting the trade ministers' meeting and other series of meetings. Both countries are members of the agreement on upgrading China-ASEAN FTA, and we've been working to promote regional economic integration. We are also parties to RCEP. In this area, we have also been working closely and effectively together. We believe that President Xi's visit to Vietnam will take economic and trade cooperation between the two countries to a new high. Thank you.
From PTI. My question is for Mr. Chen Xiaodang. You spoke about the Chinese neighborhood diplomacy in the new era. Can you please elaborate a bit what it is, what its contours are going to be? And I would like you to say a few things about how it fits into South Asia. especially India, who in the backdrop of the strained relations between the two countries.
考虑到印度这样一个国家，那么近年来双边关系面临一定紧张局势。谢谢。
好，谢谢。我刚才确实提到了这次习近平总书记国家主席出访，
this visit by
将
General
开
Secretary
启
and President Xi
这个新时代
will help
中国大国
open
中国特色周边外交的
a neighborhood diplomacy with Chinese characteristics for a new era.
习近平总书记在19大报告中
In his
全面阐述
report delivered to the 19th CPC National Congress, President Xi fully elaborated
总的目标
on the overall goal of China's foreign policy in the new era,
新型国际关
which
系
is to foster a new type of international relations and build a community of shared future for mankind.
大国外交总的方向。
This will be the overall direction for this neighborhood diplomacy of China in the next stage.
在报告中也
At the same time, in his report,
中国对周
President
边
Xi
国家
also elaborated
外交方面
on China's neighborhood diplomacy,
亲诚惠容
focusing on the principles of sincerity, amity, inclusiveness, and mutual benefit,
外交的
and
方针。
a neighborhood diplomacy
我们长期以来
aimed at building partnership and friendship with its
就
neighbors.
是秉承
Actually, this is a concept that the mission we
大力开展
have been
周
following
边国家的
over the past few years in our cooperation
深化
with our neighbors
互信
and in deepening our political mutual
是
trust
合作。
and
所以这
promoting
次
practical cooperation
总书记的出
with
访
them.
就是这样一个方针
This is
和理念的
a
一次
guiding
重
principle
大的一个
for this visit, and this will also be an opportunity to practice such guiding principles.
我想印度也是中国的重要的邻邦。
India is an
重
important
视
neighbor
发展
of China.
印度的
China
关系
attaches great importance to
愿意
its relations
在
with
这个
India,
新的重大的周边外交
and
方针的指引
we
下，
are ready
与印度
to
做一道，
work
推动
with
中印
India
关系
to
不断
promote the constant progress of bilateral relations guided by this neighborhood diplomacy with Chinese characteristics for a new era.
话筒打开。
现在声音可以吧？我是中央电视台和中国国际电视台。
Thank you. From
我想
CCTV and CGTN, my question is for Assistant Minister Chen. Both China and Vietnam are claimants of the South China Sea islands and the reefs. In recent years, there have been some relaxation of the situation in the South China Sea. So does that mean that the relaxation of the situation has offered a good atmosphere for the meeting between the leaders of the two countries? And does that mean that progress has been made in the consultation and dialogue between the two countries? How will this visit facilitate the settlement of the issue and the further relaxation of the situation? Thank you for your question. You have raised the issue of the South China Sea. Let me say that thanks to the joint efforts of China and ASEAN countries, the overall the situation in the South China Sea is moving towards relaxation, and we have also seen a positive momentum of growth. China and ASEAN countries are committed to fully and effectively implementing the DOC and actively advancing COC consultation, and we have already made important progress, which shows that countries in this region have the willingness, the wisdom, and the ability to properly handle the South China Sea issue. And we also hope that countries outside this region would look at the positive progress in the South China Sea situation in an objective manner and contribute to peace and the stability in this region. The leaders of China and Vietnam, including the leaders of the two parties, have, from a long-term and overall perspective, had in-depth exchange of views on maritime issues. They have reached important agreements. The two sides will adhere to the principles of friendly consultations and work together to manage their differences and see and uphold the overall interest of the bilateral relations as well as peace and stability in the South China Sea. Thank you. From Japan, a question for Vice Minister Li. Could you give us a briefing on the arrangements and the preparations for the bilateral meeting between the Chinese and the Japanese as well as ROK leaders, and what do you expect from these meetings?
这个我刚才谈到了，就是这次会议期间啊。
Like I said, on the margins of the meeting, leaders have a very busy schedule, but President Xi will meet with leaders of relevant economies and may have some brief conversations with them.
现在呢，很多的经济体啊，已经向中方提出了一些要求，希望能够安排这样的双边会见。
a bilateral meeting to the Chinese side, and we have received many such requests. We are in communication with them, including Japan and the ROK. They have both suggested bilaterals with the Chinese side. We are staying in contact. Once they are nailed down, we will release relevant information to the media.
好，下一个问题。还有问题吗？好，那我理解现阶段应该大家没有什么进一步的问题。
There's no other questions.
之后在整个这个出访前期，如果大家还有问题，可以通过外交部
In the lead up to the visit, you can contact us through the spokesperson's office. During the economic leaders meeting, the Chinese delegation will set up a press center in Da Nang, and please refer to the IPC website for relevant information. That is the end of the press briefing. Thank you.
And there you've just been watching a live news conference from China's foreign and commerce ministers discussing Chinese President Xi Jinping's upcoming trip next week to the 2017 APEC summit in Vietnam that's being held from November 10th through the 11th. Following that summit, the Chinese president will begin a state visit to Vietnam and Laos from November 12th through the 14th. It will be his first foreign visit since the conclusion of the 19th CPC National Congress last month. It will also be the first visit by a top Chinese leader to Laos in 11 years. Joining me in the studio is Mr. Liu Zhiqin, a senior research fellow from Renmin University of China's Chongyang Institute for Financial Studies, and Mr. Harvey Zoden, a research fellow from the Center for China and Globalization. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me today. I want to ask the both of you for your impressions of the news conference this morning. Mr. Liu, you can start.
Yes, I think it has sent out a very important signal to the world that how is the Chinese take the attitude to the APEC meeting. Because the APEC meeting will take place at the time point that after 19th Party Congress finished, and also Mr. Xi Jinping is re-elected as the General Secretary. This is a very important visit for him to show him his thought, show his ideology, and also his measures to world economic affairs. So in this way that we found that the key point of this APEC meeting were concentrated on the inclusive growth, because we have noticed that at the moment, the economic situation in the globe is well improved in the past 10 years. So it's quite important for this meeting. Of course, another point is that American President Trump will come to China also. Both factors will have big impact on the APEC meeting.
Mr. Zoden, your thoughts?
Well, I think that the press conference underlines just how important APEC is and how important China's participation is. And it's absolutely true that this is a very special time after the 19th Congress. And also, I can see coming out of this so many important issues that have to be discussed, have to be decided, have to be raised. And I can see a blending of what President Xi talked about in his speech during the 19th Congress. I can see Belt and Road Initiative in this. I can see Chinese Dream in this. They have a lot of work to do, and I believe that all the nations will work very hard to achieve this on the APEC platform.
We heard a lot about the goals and hopes for the upcoming APEC summit. What do you think is the most notable issue of this next APEC summit, which may have previously not been faced?
Okay, well, I think there's one thing that was covered in the press conference and one thing that isn't. The one thing that was covered in the press conference for sure is the rise of e-commerce and the internet and cross-border e-commerce and how to make that work, how to reduce the barriers, eliminate the barriers actually, and this is going to take the cooperation of all nations concerned. What's not in the press conference was what Mr. Liu mentioned, and that's President Trump's visit. This is kind of, he's the 800-pound panda in the room, because nobody knows how he's going to react, what he's going to do. He's made some very strong statements against globalization, against multilateralism, and so I think we're all holding our breath to see that both he has good meetings here in Beijing and that he has a cooperative attitude when the APEC meeting is being conducted.
That's certainly the wild card, Mr. Trump, President Trump's visit next week. Mr. Liu, what do you think China's focus will be during the meeting this year?
I think we put a very important significance to this meeting, especially as we know during the press conference also we heard that very famous word that economic integration in this area, especially for the two countries, China and America. If all these major economies can have a joint consensus on the economic growth, to put joint efforts to create new jobs and a new growth engine. So this is why we call the APEC region, APEC meeting is an important engine for the next year to come. So especially for China has to promote a new measures to the world that what China is thinking, what we can do that to promote, to boost the economy, especially the economic integration is not an easy job for all the countries, how to coordinate with each other, especially the policy connectivity and also economic measures, how to coordinate with each other to get the best outcome of the economy.
It was back in 2014 that President Xi Jinping said in a speech, quote, "We are duty-bound to create and fulfill an Asia-Pacific dream for our people." What's your interpretation of that dream, and what is China's role in fulfilling that dream?
We find that the APEC region is very important to the world economy, especially this economic force we occupy and reach the 60% of the total world GDP and 50% of the global trade volume. So in this way, how to make a harmonious cooperation among these members is quite important to stabilize the world economy. We have found many problems in the past years, but actually this year is the best year in the past 10 years that all the nations, all the major countries have positive signals for forecast for the economy in the year to come. So China has promoted the APEC region dream that for the people is quite important because China is very familiar to do something that to set the target first, and then we have the concrete steps. So we set target for the whole group, the APEC region, that we have a shared dream, and then we have shared opportunities to build a whole community with shared prosperity. This is a dream for the people here.
Harvey, do you have anything to add to that?
I would say that it's going to be a very important meeting. There's so many issues on the agenda that will require cooperation. And I think the part of the talk about the new era is the fact that China is now stepping out very confidently onto the world stage. I think China will be a partner and a leader at the meeting.
We had a couple questions in the news conference, including from my colleague Han Peng, asking about the tensions in the South China Sea and how that could affect the upcoming APEC meeting, and also with the Chinese president being the first top Chinese leader to visit Laos in 11 years. What do you think this means for relations between China and Vietnam, as well as China and Laos?
I think anytime leaders and people can talk to each other directly, it's a very good sign, because when people don't talk, there's more chance of miscalculation and problems that could become very, very serious. So I think these are all very excellent signs that there'll be cooperation. And I think also, if we're talking about extension of Belt and Road Initiative to some of these countries, the fifth pillar is people-to-people cooperation. So I think this is people-to-people cooperation at the highest level.
All right, Harvey Zoden and Liu Zhichin, thank you very much for joining me today and keeping me company during this morning's news conference. And thank you for watching our special edition of The World Today. I'm Rachel Rubel in Beijing. I'll see you back right here in just a few minutes.